Okay, so I said I was going to start quoting church fathers or thoughts that thoughts that they had, thoughts that I have, different various things. Maybe I'll get into some more politics and maybe I'll get into some other stuff as the days go by, the months go by, the years go by. I think that's a song. I'm not really sure. But anyway, I'm gonna start off with another thing because still gotta wait for some of these videos to upload from BitChute. I don't know what's going on, but obviously there's been some technical difficulties with BitChute. But obviously, gotta be patient because they might be flooded with some stuff right now, knowing the whole climate. I mean that not in an environmental sense. I mean that in a big tech sense. And how they're all authoritarian and so worried about what we have to say because we might be bad people or we might be causing a disruption when in all reality we just want to be left alone. So anyway, this one comes from Saint Basil the Great. It is easier to measure the entire sea with a tiny cup than to grasp the ineffable greatness of God with the human mind. By Saint Basil the Great. So that's I think this might be a good one to kick it off with. So obviously, being a creature of an uncreated being, we obviously can't understand the greatness. We can't understand the depth of love, the depth of gratitude, the depth of our existence into God. He puts it into us. The Father created us to hold, well, a balance in a sense, to hold to his tenets and his commandments, to hold the virtues throughout which we have a transcendence, a soul, a sense of being to not only ourselves, but to God, and to wrap our minds or try to wrap our minds around that greatness. Now, measuring the entire sea with a tiny cup, that is another great metaphor because that's comparing one thing to another. I don't know if that's a literal definition of a metaphor because it's not. I know that, but um, easier to measure the entire sea within a tiny cup. I mean, think about that. That's like putting the sea into God's hands. Obviously, that's not a tiny cup, but in a sense, He created all of that. He made all of that. So measuring that, I mean, how many gallons of water there might be in the world, and putting it all into something in a cup, that's, I mean, that's amazing. That's amazing. It's obviously humanly impossible, but to God, it's not that impossible. So that's where the greatness just becomes so limitless. It becomes so transcendent. It becomes so desirable. I mean, it becomes something that is just like an innate human quality to you either have it or you don't. I mean, but each one of us does have it. It's just whether you want to answer the call or you want to hang up. Or what was the other metaphor? God is always knocking. You have to answer the door. So that's another thing. So and by ineffable greatness of God within our mind, you can't cram it in there. You can, no matter how hard you try, you can't. And you can, well, you can extract it, I guess in a sense. you can't extract his greatness from our own minds because he created us. So if he created us, we're working in a sense with his essence, with his greatness. So we're extracting. We can extract things when it comes to God. We can also, when we extract things, we can also put them back in. Internally, I find Orthodox Christianity to be a very prominent and a very strong sense of being, a sense of being in both a gnosis, a theosis, and in the middle you have the catechesis, which is the process of knowing how ineffably great there is of God. There just is. I don't know how any other way to explain it. When there's just that way to explain it, then the greatness becomes an imparted divinity, an inherited divinity, um, as we see it in his gifts, and as we see it in even that tiniest of cups. It could be something so great as the sea, diluted down to a something as small as that cup. But you can never dilute the greatness of God down to what we can think. So, or what we might think about him. Certainly know as an Orthodox Christian, I know what you have a sense of what what God thinks about us as his creation. And going into something like the Western forms of Christianity, I'll leave that for another time. I'll digress on that. But seeing as how we can relate to that, there is a definite possibility and a definite ineffability that God is always there, and I mean, to worship and to praise Him is right and is proper. So with that, that's all I got for now on those thoughts. And this quote, can expound upon it in the comments, and I appreciate it. See you later. God bless.